October 10, 2024. The sun has just set over Mayfair, London, casting long shadows across the cobblestones of one of the most affluent neighborhoods on the planet. At 6:15 p.m., the streets are alive with the hum of luxury engines and the murmur of high society commerce. Amidst this backdrop of extreme privilege, two individuals appear to be enjoying a casual evening stroll. To the untrained eye, they are simply wealthy tourists, soaking in the atmosphere of the British capital. But to the eyes watching them from the periphery, they represent something entirely different, a payday worth more than most people earn in a decade. The man walks with an air of casual confidence, his sleeve slightly rolled back to reveal a Rolex Sky Dweller, a masterpiece of engineering valued at £40,000. Beside him, his companion flashes an even more impressive signal of status, a rose gold Patek Philippe that would fetch upwards of £70,000 on the open market. Together, they are walking billboards of wealth, displaying over £100,000 of horological artistry on their wrists. They look exposed. They look distracted. They look like the perfect targets. Trailing just a few paces behind them is 21-year-old Jakob Harkit. He has been tracking their movements, studying their pace, and waiting for the opportune moment to strike. Harkit is not operating on impulse. He is a cog in a transnational machine that has plagued London's elite districts for years. He believes he has identified the ultimate mark. In his mind, the next 60 seconds will be routine, a sudden surge of aggression, a quick struggle, and a disappearance into the labyrinth of London's streets with a fortune in his pocket. However, Harkit is about to make a catastrophic miscalculation. He is unaware that the environment around him is not what it seems. The unsuspecting tourists are actually elite undercover officers from the Metropolitan Police. The vulnerable targets are, in reality, the bait in the most audacious sting operation in modern British history. What Harkit views as a quiet street is actually a controlled stage, surrounded by surveillance teams, backup units, and high-definition cameras recording every micro-movement. He is not hunting. He is being hunted. This confrontation, which unfolds in the blink of an eye, is about to expose a billion-dollar criminal enterprise stretching from the alleys of North Africa to the polished boardrooms of London's financial district. You are about to witness exactly how law enforcement turned the tables on the Rolex Rippers. But to fully grasp the magnitude of this trap, we must first understand the desperate circumstances that forced the police to use themselves as human shields. This wasn't just about catching one thief. It was about stopping a sophisticated conspiracy that had turned London into the global epicenter of luxury theft. Before the handcuffs click shut, we need to explore the shadow economy that brought us to this explosive moment. To understand why two officers were risking their safety on the streets of Mayfair that evening, you have to look beyond the glittering storefronts and see the reality that the tourist brochures conveniently omit. In the years leading up to 2024, London had quietly transformed into ground zero for one of the most sophisticated luxury theft operations the world has ever witnessed. The statistics paint a grim picture of a city under siege. Across England and Wales, watch thefts had nearly doubled in a 7-year span, reaching over 11,000 incidents annually. In the capital alone, 6,000 timepieces were forcibly taken last year. That averages out to 16 thefts, every single dire, relentless rhythm of loss occurring every 90 minutes. This surge in criminal activity created a climate of genuine apprehension. The situation became so severe that international business executives, individuals accustomed to high-stakes environments, began removing London from their travel itineraries. The hesitation wasn't due to market volatility or geopolitical instability. It was a primal fear of having their personal property seized in broad daylight. The methodology of these groups was terrifyingly consistent. They utilized speed, aggressive intimidation, and overwhelming force. They would strike in seconds, melting back into the crowded streets, before the victim could even process the magnitude of the unfortunate event. However, as investigators began to peel back the layers of these crimes, they realized they weren't dealing with opportunistic street thieves looking for quick cash. these were not random acts. They were the visible symptoms of a vast, organized ecosystem. The Metropolitan Police uncovered a criminal highway that originated thousands of miles away in North Africa, specifically within Algerian networks, routing through France and terminating in the affluent postcodes of London. Detective Sergeant Andy Swindles, the head of the Met's luxury theft unit, identified the phenomenon as stealing to order. These groups were operating with the precision of a logistics company. They scoured the internet to research high-value models. They scouted locations like Knightsbridge, Soho, and Mayfair areas where wealth is displayed casually. They weren't looking for just any watch. They were hunting specifically for liquid assets like the Richard Mille or the Rolex Daytona. The financial incentives were staggering. A single Richard Mille can command a price of £300,000. A rare Patek Philippe can soar past $500,000. In a single, high-intensity encounter lasting less than a minute, a skilled operative could secure more wealth than the average person accumulates in a lifetime. But the cost of this enterprise wasn't just financial. It was psychological. They were stealing the sense of security from London's most prestigious districts. By late 2024, the situation had reached a critical threshold. The police understood that standard patrols and CCTV were no longer sufficient deterrents against such a highly motivated adversary. To stop a network that operated with such predatory efficiency, law enforcement had to evolve. They needed to stop reacting to crimes and start engineering them. They needed to present a target so tempting, so apparently vulnerable, that the criminals couldn't resist revealing themselves. And so, the plan was set in motion. The police would become the bait. The operation had been active for hours without incident. The two undercover officers looped through their designated route, moving from Berkeley Square to Hayes Mews repeatedly. They walked with purpose, ensuring their luxury timepieces caught the available light, essentially broadcasting a signal to anyone watching from the shadows. They made themselves visible, vulnerable, and incredibly attractive targets. The tension among the backup teams hidden nearby was palpable. Waiting is often the hardest part of surveillance. Then, at 6:15 p.m., the dynamic shifted instantly. Jakob Harkit, who had been trailing the pair for several minutes, decided the moment was right. He had studied their body language and convinced himself they were oblivious tourists. He had absolutely no idea he was stepping into a meticulously calibrated trap. The surveillance cameras captured the entire sequence. Harkit approached from behind, adopting a casual demeanor to blend into the evening foot traffic. His focus was laser-locked on the female officer's wrist, where the rose-gold Patek Philippe, a high-end replica, virtually indistinguishable from the real thing, glimmered. Suddenly, the pretense dropped. In one fluid, aggressive motion, Harkit lunged. He grabbed the officer's arm, attempting to wrench the watch free with brute force. But the victim did not freeze or recoil in terror. Instead, the training kicked in. There was an immediate, sharp struggle as the officer resisted, disrupting Harkit's momentum. In that split second of resistance, you can almost sense the predator's confusion. The easy mark wasn't behaving like a mark at all. Realization dawned on Harkit too late. As he grappled with the watch, the trap snapped shut. The backup teams, who had been ghosts in the environment just moments before, converged from multiple directions. The streets suddenly flooded with law enforcement. Harkit attempted to flee, discarding the watch he had managed to snatch during the scuffle, but his escape routes were already sealed. The takedown was a masterclass in controlled chaos. Officers secured Harkit swiftly, bringing him to the ground and neutralizing the threat. The replica Patek Philippe was recovered from the pavement nearby. But the operation's success wasn't limited to a single arrest. As the team secured Harkit, their situational awareness paid off. They spotted three other men: Mohammed Nos, Adel Mohammed, and Janice Amri, who had been shadowing the tourists in coordination with Harkit. Seeing the ambush unfold, they attempted to melt away into the confused crowd. This wasn't just a lone attacker. The sting had illuminated an entire cell of the criminal network. Mohammed Nos was intercepted and arrested, while the other two managed to slip through the net in the initial confusion. However, their identities were now known, and their anonymity was gone. The immediate threat was neutralized, but as the adrenaline faded, the real investigative work began. The police had their man, but they suspected that Harkit and Noz were merely the frontline soldiers of a much larger, more sinister army. The arrests on the street were just the beginning. In the quiet, sterile rooms of the police station, detectives began the digital excavation that would reveal the true scope of the conspiracy. They seized Mohammed Noz's phone, and its contents provided the smoking gun prosecutors needed. The device was a window into the mind of a professional thief. His search history from the days leading up to the robbery was a catalogue of high-end horology. He hadn't been browsing randomly. He had been researching specific Richard Mille timepieces, studying their valuations and market demand. This digital footprint dismantled any defense that their presence in Mayfair was coincidental. It proved intent, preparation, and professional knowledge. Working with international partners, British investigators traced the threads of this operation across borders. The intelligence confirmed their worst fears. The group operating in London was connected to a broader syndicate with roots in North Africa and tentacles reaching across Europe. They discovered that this network wasn't just targeting London. They were systematic, hitting major European wealth hubs with the same ruthless efficiency. They understood legal jurisdictions, exploited gaps in cross-border policing, and moved stolen assets through channels that made recovery nearly impossible. The trial at Southwark Crown Court brought these realities into sharp focus. Jakob Harkit, confronted with undeniable CCTV evidence of his assault on the undercover officers, pleaded guilty to robbery. There was no maneuvering around the footage. Mohammed Noz, however, attempted to fight the charges, claiming he was merely an innocent bystander caught in the wrong place. The jury, presented with the damning phone evidence and surveillance logs, rejected his story. Recorder Jacques Alghazi KC, presiding over the case, did not mince words during sentencing. He characterized the operation as highly organized crime, explicitly stating that the motivation was greed, not need. The sentences reflected the severity of the offense. Harkit received 2 years, reduced only due to his plea, while Noz was handed a 3-year term. The two accomplices who fled, Mohammed and Amory, were convicted in absentia, their warrants remaining active as a reminder that the law has a long memory. This case was a significant victory, a moment where the shield of law enforcement successfully shattered the spear of organized crime. But the conclusion is a complex one. The Rolex Ripper network remains active, evolving and adapting to new police tactics. The economic and psychological scars on London's reputation persist. Yet, this operation proved that the city is not a soft target. It sent a message that behind the veneer of vulnerable tourists, there may be a steel trap waiting to spring. The battle for the streets is far from over. Criminals continue to leverage technology and international mobility to stay ahead, but now they operate with a new variable to consider: the paranoia that their next victim might be waiting for them. As we close this case file, remember that in the world of modern crime, appearances are the ultimate deception,